My name is Ashley and I'm an astrologer, and I thought we could also do a little ASMR on this astrology channel, and it's not letting you see my book. Oh, here it is. It's the book on the 12 houses, exploring the houses of the horoscope. And this is a zodiac wheel, and this was written by Howard Sasportas. And it says, let's read it. A birth chart consists of three basic ingredients. Simply put, the planets show what is happening, the signs show how it is happening, and the houses of the horoscope describe where it's happening. So, in the 12 houses, acclaimed astrologer Howard Sasportas explores in detail the experiences and situations associated with each of the houses, describing not only their tangible associations, but also the more subtle meanings of each of the different spheres of life. Both spiritual and psychological in his approach, Howard Sasportas remains one of the most influential and best-loved astrologers of recent times. The 12 Houses is a pioneering volume recognized as the definitive work on the astrological houses, and a favorite among students and professionals alike. It is an essential addition to every astrological library. The revised edition contains a new foreword by Liz Green. I also really like her books. I have a few of them, and tribute essays to Howard Sasportas from leading astrologers Darby Costello, Melanie Reinhardt, Aaron Sullivan, and Laura Boomer Trent. So it says Howard Sasportas, born 1948 and passed away in 1992, was an award-winning American astrologer. I just plucked my eyebrows, so that's why my face is a little red. So anyhow, there's a few more books that he wrote, and he created and not created, but necessarily co-founded the Center for Psychological Astrology with Liz Green. And he also wrote The Gods Change, co-authored by the Sun Sign Career Guide with Robert G. Walker, and with Liz Green produced 4 volumes of seminars in psychological astrology. So I thought we could read from this book. And so it says, to my parents with love. I am proud to have the opportunity to republish this seminal work on the astrological houses, and I would like to thank the following for their contributions to this new edition. Jane Struthers, Deanna Nektic, Tamara Stambikovic, Melanie Reinhardt, and it just goes on to thank a bunch of more people. So it's got some acknowledgements. And this side over here, I can't really see it, it's blurring it out, but then this is the table of contents here. And illustrations. And it's got the foreword to the 2007 edition. And so we're going to read part 1, The Landscape of Life. 1. Basic Premises. So, it says, I'm going to sit it down here, it's a little easier. There are 3 basic ingredients. Let's do it like this. There are 3 basic ingredients which combine to make up an astrological chart: planets, signs, and houses. Planets represent particular psychological drives, urges, and motivations. Like verbs, they depict a certain action which is going on. For example, Mars asserts, Venus harmonizes, Jupiter expands, Saturn restricts, etc. The sign represents the 12 qualities of being or attitudes towards life. The drive of a planet is expressed through the sign in which the planet is placed. Mars can assert in an Aryan way or a Tauran way. Venus can harmonize in a Geminian way or Cancerian fashion, and so on. Houses, however, show the specific areas of everyday life or fields of experience in which all this is occurring. Mars in Taurus will assert itself in a slow and steady manner, but its placement by house determines the exact area of life in which this slow and steady action can most obviously be observed. Whether it is in the person's career that he or she acts that way, or is his or her relationships, or at school, etc. Put very simply, the planets show what is happening. The signs show it is happening, and the houses where it is happening. Serving as the lens to focus and personalize the planetary blueprint onto the landscape of actual life, the houses bring the chart down to earth, and yet the meanings and functions of the 12 houses are usually the least understood of all the basic astrological factors. It is the purpose of this book to examine how a proper appreciation of all the signs and planets in each of the 12 houses can guide us to our true identity, illuminating the path of self-discovery and the unfoldment of our life path. There are a few reasons why the full significance of the houses has been so often overlooked. Most astrological textbooks dwell on the traditional outer meaning of each house and neglect its more subtle or basic underlying principle. Unless the core meaning of the house is grasped, the true essence of the house is lost. For instance, the 11th house is normally known as the house of friends, groups, hopes, and wishes. At first, this may seem strange. What do friends and groups have to do with hopes and wishes? Why are these things all lumped together under the same houses? However, when the deeper and most basic principle of the house is explained, then the connection becomes clear. The kernel of the 11th house is the urge to become something greater than we already are. We do this by connecting to something greater than our separate selves, by aligning ourselves with friends and social circles, by joining groups, by identifying with causes which lift us out of ourselves and encompasses us in a vaster scheme of things. But the desire to become something greater than we already are must also be accompanied by the capacity to envision new and different possibilities. In other words, hoping and wishing for something moves us beyond existing images and models of ourselves. We must have dreams before we can have a dream come true. Understood in the context of the desire to extend our already existing sphere of experience, the 11th house labels of friends, groups, hopes, and wishes begin to make sense in relationship to one another. The conventional way in which the influence of planets and signs in the houses has been interpreted is another obstacle to fully appreciating the significance of each house. Perceiving events as purely external circumstances which befall us. Traditional astrology interprets planets in the chart in a deterministic and fatalistic light, and astrology fails, to comprehend the part we play in shaping and constituting what happens to us. An event-oriented astrologer, for instance, may say to a man with Saturn in the 11th house something like, "Your friends will restrict and disappoint you." This may be true, but what good does such an interpretation do for anyone? The philosophical premise upon which psychological astrology is based is that a person's reality springs outward from his or her inner landscape in thoughts, feelings, and expectations, beliefs, and beliefs. For the man with Saturn in the 11th, trouble with friends is only the tip of the iceberg. The outer manifestation of something which he himself is responsible for creating. His difficulty relating with companies is the surface manifestation of something much deeper. His fear of expanding his boundaries to include something other than himself. He wants to become greater than he already is. he already is, to identify with something beyond his existence, sense of self, and yet he is afraid of endangering the identity he already has. The 11th house urges him to encompass a greater reality, but Saturn says, hold on, preserve what you're already familiar with. Understood in this way, it is not friendship which restricts him, but his own restrictions which limit his friendships. The astrologer who points out this dilemma ushers the man into the vestibule of change, confronting these apprehensions, examining their origins, and looking at the possible ways of dealing with his fears are the keys which open the door to further growth and development, which appreciated in the context of unfolding his potential and realizing his life plan. This man's difficulties with friends becomes a necessary and productive phase of experience. Grappling with Saturn in the 11th rather than avoiding it or blaming it on others is one way he makes of himself what he is supposed to become. How infinitely more beneficial this interpretation of an 11th house Saturn is than, sorry, old chap, your friends are no good. In this book, The Astrology of Personality, Dane Rudyard, a pioneer of person-centered astrology, proposes that reading the chart is to read the dharma of the person. In later work, The Astrological Houses, he elaborates more fully on this, emphasizing that the planets and signs in each house offer celestial instructions on how a person can most naturally unfold his or her life plan in that area of existence. As far as possible, this book interprets the planets and signs through the houses in this perspective. However, besides just indicating the most authentic way to fulfill our intrinsic potentialities, the house placements also show our innate predisposition to perceive the experience associated with each house in the context of the signs and planets found there. For example, a woman with Pluto in the 7th is predisposed from birth to expect Pluto in connection with the affairs of that house. What's more, because Pluto is what she is expecting there, Pluto is precisely what she will find. What we see in life is colored by what we expect to see. 28 students were asked to describe what they saw when a desk of playing cards was flashed one by one onto the screen. Their basic expectations or orienting paradigm was the preconception. The pack of cards consists of 4 suits, 2 black, spades and a club, and 2 red suits, hearts and diamonds. However, when the experimenters slipped a red 6 of spades into the deck, many of the students simply refused the evidence of their own eyes and converted the red spade to black into their descriptions. In other words, when the red 6 of spades was flashed onto the screen, they didn't even notice the card's incongruity to their expectations of what a 6 of spades should look like. They saw only what they expected to see, not what was actually there. Similarly, our archetypal expectations, as seen through the signs and planets in the houses, precondition us to certain ways of experiencing life. The woman born with Pluto in the 7th, then, will filter issues relating to partnership through lens of a planet. In this sense, she is stuck with Pluto in the dimension of life, just as an acorn is stuck with becoming an oak. Nothing she can do will change that planet being there. But once she becomes consciously aware that Pluto is the context in which she views the 7th house, a few alternatives open to her which didn't exist previously.